principles of international justice. There is no doubt that, as I set out in the early chapters of this report, what happened in 1971 in Dhaka, in what is now Bangladesh, was genocide, crimes against humanity, the most horrific violence, which took, I would say, over 1 million lives. There's no clarity as to whether the government of Bangladesh has claimed that it took 3 million lives. That may be an exaggeration, but at least that, and it commenced what we now know as ethnic rape. At least 200,000 women were raped, and doctors regarded as abortionists in London and Sydney at the time were really terminated the pregnancies and participated in what the new government of Bangladesh had to run as a campaign to make the women who'd been raped acceptable in traditional societies. That was just one of the appalling events that took place. What made Operation Searchlight, as it was called when the Pakistan army came out of its barracks, assassinated the professors at the university, then moved on to destroy what they called slum clearance. They destroyed the homes of the poor Awami League supporters, and then they moved on to the Hindus, and they killed every Hindu they could find. 10 million of them, virtually all of them, were either killed or sought refuge in India. But I suppose virtually all of them were either killed or sought refuge in India. But I suppose, as unfortunately a student new state, every community leader, intellectual, poet, writer, journalist, was put on a list and then assassinated. The list was found in his handwriting on a Pakistani commander who suggested a number throughout the war, that a number of citizens, and they were mainly Islamic citizens or Biharis, there were 3 million Biharis, who were in favor of keeping Pakistan united, had nonetheless worked with the killer squads of the Pakistani army. As historians know, it was a long time ago, the Awami League, under its leader, set up a government and made a beginning. They, with the help of the International Commission of Jurists, they passed the International Crimes Act, and they were going to put on trial 195 of the Pakistani war criminals, beginning with their general Niazi. They had captured them, they were being held in India, and possibly they were going to put on trial, in fact did, proceed against a number of people who were already in Bangladesh, who had joined various paramilitary groups that helped in Bangladesh, who had joined various paramilitary groups that helped the Pakistani army. These were, as I say, Biharis or members of the Jamaat, and all members who later became members of the BNP. But, as luck would have it, it was too early for international justice. Pinochet was soon to torture his victims. There was genocide unrequited soon in Cambodia. The world hadn't got the idea. It didn't until the 1990s when the ICTY&R was set up, there was no sense that international crimes should be prosecuted. Of Nixon and Kissinger, contrary, as you perhaps know because of Gary Bass's book, The Blood Telegram, contrary to all the American diplomats in Bangladesh who saw the genocide unfold and begged Nixon and Kissinger to do something about it, but they were entirely on the side of Pakistan and manipulated the situation so that those 195 Pakistani army war criminals would go back to Pakistan, where they've been. One of them, in fact, the leader, was given a state funeral years later after serving as Bhutto's defense minister. So there's been no accountability in relation to the primary perpetrators of this hideous event. Bangladesh, they made a start. The leader, Abdul Rahman, has laid down this law and said, we will have a fair international trial, we'll have international judges, we'll have international lawyers, and we'll put on trial the Pakistanis, if we get them, and the local collaborators. But that didn't happen. He was assassinated, and democracy in Bangladesh has had a very up and down, very patchy record, interspersed by military dictators. But in 2009, his daughter, 2008 actually, his daughter Sheikh Husseini was elected. 2008 actually, his daughter Sheikh Husseini was elected on a promise to bring justice, to have the war criminals prosecuted. Well, the Pakistani 195 war criminals, the primary perpetrators, were some of them still alive, but of course Bangladesh's writ didn't run in Pakistan, and the United Nations is an interesting situation, because the United Nations, along with most NGOs like Human Rights Watch, including myself, I have written a book on crimes against humanity, in a new edition of the Time. We all welcomed the idea of setting up an international tribunal to accountability for this terrible genocide. And it seemed that it would, in fact, do that. Well, what has happened? The tribunal set up, the United Nations, I was going to say, was prepared to lend a hand by providing experts, by providing judges, by providing funding.